Hey YouTubers, welcome back to video number 28 of Small Engines Questions and Answers for Friday, December 24th, 2010. So as you can see, I've been busy with snowblowers. I picked up that one over there a little while ago. I'm going to be making videos on that one. That one just needs a carburetor repair. And this one here, I fixed up the valves on this one. I did not have time to make a video, but I am going to make a video this winter on how to adjust the valves on a Tecumseh motor. And some of these blowers over there are mine, and they run. Also got a small snowblower here. It's made by Noma. It's branded Mastercraft from a Canadian store here. And I'll be making a video on how to repair the front auger. A guy gave it to me like that, all in pieces, so I'm only going to be able to make a video on how to reassemble it. Now the first question I got today is a question I often get, and people ask me, where does this little spring here go on the MTD blower? So that's the bottom gearbox of an MTD blower, like this one over here. Now this is where your drive cable hooks up here, and there's a small little spring that hooks up in there as well, and hooks up down here in this notch. What that spring does is it keeps the friction wheel disc away from the friction wheel over here when it's not engaged. If the spring is missing, when you go to switch gears, it may be a bit harder because the disc is going to contact the friction wheel over here, and it's going to be hard to slide back and forth. So when you press the drive cable, this disc here is going to come up like that and contact the friction wheel, and when you let go, the spring's going to make sure it goes back down. So it's only a $3 part, but it's really important to prolong the life of your friction wheel over here. Now another question I often get is, how do I remove a fused snowblower wheel from the drive shaft? Well, here's the snowblower wheel right here. If you do have an acetylene torch, that would be good. You'd have to remove the pin first, obviously. Then you'd have to heat up the shaft here. You may damage your tire doing this. Make sure the air is not in the tire when doing this so that it does not explode on you. If you can, remove the tire before you do that. You'd have to heat up the whole shaft here. Then you'd have to heat up the shaft down there. If it's a plastic here, you don't have to worry. But some blowers, it's actually part of the wheel that goes over the axle over here. On this blower here, I wouldn't have to worry because it's plastic. So take the tire off before you do this if it's fused on really bad, because it's a fire hazard, a health hazard, and a safety hazard as well if it's on there when you heat it up. Using a propane torch may not have enough heat for you to be able to remove it from the shaft. If you don't heat it and it's really fused on there and you force on it with a pipe wrench or something like that, you can end up breaking the shaft right off near the blower. Now you can apply the same principle if you were to remove a fused auger from the shaft on there. You would heat up this part as well to get it off. I'm going to be posting a video this weekend on how to remove a fused auger from a snowblower shaft. Now you can apply that same principle when you remove your snowblower wheels that are fused to a shaft. So again, just remember to always have safety in mind when you do a job like that. Now the next question I have is regarding a snowblower again, specifically the MTDs made like this. The question I have is, somebody's asking me if they can remove the front auger component here altogether without actually having to rip the snowblower apart. So basically he's wondering if he takes off the 3 bolts on each side of the blower that hold the shaft here, and also he's wondering if he can get the pins out over there, if the whole thing would come out. Well, if you could get those pins out over there, then you would be able to do that, but I never do that because it's so hard to get those spiral pins out of the shaft. Now here's why. Here's the front system from the same blower, and if you take a closer look at the pins here, they're in there pretty tight, and you usually have to punch them out with a roll pin punch with a hammer. That's how you get them off. Sometimes you even have to heat the shaft to be able to take the pins out and to separate the impeller from the shaft here. Now as you can see where the impeller is, there's very limited space to put a roll pin punch there and a hammer. So chances are it's going to be near impossible to remove it like that. So what I recommend is separating the blower down where the 3 nuts here on each side, you'd have to remove them, remove the drive cable, the belt, and then by removing the bolts on each side of the blower, you will be able to remove the whole front end like that. you would also have to remove the pulley that is attached to the back of the impeller. So here's another MTD front end here. Once you've got it separated from the blower, this is the pulley you would have to remove. And then sometimes the shaft is stuck in the bearing down there as well. So sometimes you have to heat that as well. Now I do have videos that show how to repair the front auger system on these blowers, and I'm going to post a link underneath this video. Now my last question is, somebody saw the Toro videos that I posted last week regarding the Toro impeller bushing repair. Now a YouTuber was wondering why sometimes you don't see a bolt at the end of a pulley on a crankshaft. Well, I'll show you what there is sometimes instead of a bolt. Sometimes you're going to get a set screw like that. This one's an Allen wrench set screw. It screws right into the pulley and it locks onto the shaft. This pulley here has a bolt at the end, but sometimes you're not going to have a bolt at the end, you're just going to have a set screw like that. And here's another snowblower pulley to show you the same thing. Basically that screws in, comes out under here, and tightens up on the shaft. So thanks for watching this episode of Small Engines Questions and Answers. So I want to thank everybody for their contributions in the last week, and have yourself a great weekend, and we'll see you next week. Take care now.